Ugh. How'd I get a hair in there? That's gross. Want to know my every move, but don't want to respect my craft? Enjoy these 50 emails a day from someone who does. I recently started a senior cybersecurity position about 2 months ago for a global publicly traded company. Over the past 2 months, I've been trying to learn the landscape of the company and alerting my boss of any potential risks. Call it an internal risk assessment. I report to the CISO, but I work with all the IT, app dev, and business users. Whenever I find a potential risk, vulnerability, or loophole, I try to eliminate it by finding as much information because there may be something I don't know or someone I haven't spoken to who is handling it. Because my company is spread out all over the world, all our teams are also spread out. The director of IT infrastructure sits in Europe, while my office is in US. Let's just say this guy is a total control freak. But like I said, I don't work for him. 5 guys who do work for him, however, are in the same office I am. So I just go to those guys to ask for information I need to make my assessment. And then I escalate to my boss, who immediately orders remediation of risk that I find, i.e., orders the Europe guys to fix crap. This guy doesn't like it very much, so he calls me. Conversation went something like this. Hacker, me, obviously. CF, control freak. CF, hey hacker, you need to think about who your job will impact before you create work for people. I don't like being blindsided. Me, fair enough. That's why I try to make sure to cover all grounds before I make proposals for remediation. CF, if there's information you seek, talk to me first before you talk to my team. If it's a real risk, we'll fix it without need for escalation. Me, fair enough. I'll give that method a try if that's what you want. Problem with this new relationship is this guy is too busy and gets too many emails which he can't keep up with. Believes he runs a tight ship and cannot get hacked. I also told my boss about this conversation, and he asked me to play along, but copy him in all my emails. Fast forward a couple weeks, CS has dismissed every single issue I brought up, or sometimes just completely didn't reply, because too busy for emails. So I did what any hacker would do without permission from management. I hacked my way up to a domain controller, got other admin accounts along the way. I did this over and over, taking different paths each time, including hacking devices we use in our conference rooms, which he claims are locked out. He or his team had no clue any of this happened, even though I performed the hacks from a non-image external computer on a VPN. I submitted a pen test report to my boss, itemizing all the techniques I used and all the vulnerabilities I exploited. Vulnerabilities which I mentioned to CF, but he dismissed out of hand. So my boss escalates to the CIO, who is the CFO's boss's boss. Anyway, crap rolls down from the ceiling. CF was livid. He was ordered to start a new project with allocated team and resources to follow up on my report, but not before we got another on call. CF, why you do what you do? English is not his first language. Me, told ya, this crap is real. It's what I'm hired to do. Find loopholes like this. CF, but why you no tell me? Me, I did tell you. You said it's not a real risk. CF, okay, but can you please let me know anything you do that concerns my team at all times? He was begging. Me, okay. Problem was, CF's boss had also asked to be copied on every email I sent to CF, as has my boss. So now, when I sent him one email, he gets 3 from his boss asking him what his plan is, and 2 from my boss telling him why it's important. Also, whenever I need information on someone on his team, I have to copy him, which also means I have to copy his boss and my boss. It's a mess, and I realize it's a bad start to an otherwise great company. For someone who hates emails because he gets too much of them, he now gets almost 50 a day from me or about me that he has to respond to. On the flip side, we are sort of becoming friends now, and he's working with me more and respecting my trade. So there's that. Maybe if I pass on good comments about him, we can go on working directly without involving our bosses. Expect me to clean, cook, teach myself school, and parent my younger siblings? Okay. I was 13 years old. My youngest sibling had just turned 4. I'll call him Jack Jack for purposes of this story. We were just 2 out of a total of 6 kids. My mom is unfortunately the stereotypical anti-vax religious parents who chose to homeschool for the control and didn't think her plan all the way through. I'm so sorry. The more kids she had and the older we got, the less she gave a crap and the more emotional and angry she got. We were becoming independent thinkers and less clingy. So she spent time doing literally anything else she could instead of parenting us or being our school teacher. I was expected to keep the borderline hoarder house clean, read my own school lessons, cook, and watch my younger 4 siblings, including an Aspie who wasn't allowed professional help or recognition of his autism. Dear Lord, the meltdowns were daily. Obviously, the younger siblings include Jack Jack. My older brother wasn't expected to do chores and babysitting because sexism. As a toddler, Jack Jack had this game, or fixation I suppose you could call it, of cramming small rocks or other tiny objects into his ears. Somebody then would have to wash them out or fish them out. Eventually, he started putting them in his nose. Being told no didn't work, and I tried to drive this point home. Mom yelled at me for upsetting him. One day, I was especially tired and done with the nonsense, and having to force his hand open every 2 minutes while we were in the backyard and taking gravel away from him. Cue Mom opening the back door after an hour or 2, specifically to guilt trip and yell at me because the dishes were piled up. I'm told to go wash them. Internally, I'm fuming. But on the inside, I'm an underweight, defeated, timid kid who just wanted to go to her room to decompress. Or at least to the corner of the room that was mine. Jack Jack started to throw a tantrum when I said we had to go inside. Then it hit me. There was a container of red-hot mini cinnamon candies in the kitchen. I'm not allowed to teach an important lesson, but you refuse to teach him? Okay, that boy gon' learn, and he gon' learn today. Hey Jack Jack, want some candy? At this stage in life, he's well on his way to obesity and spoilt from the worst parenting any of us have gotten so far. So of course he wants candy. His eyes lit up, and he stops digging around for rocks. I don't have to fight with him to make him go inside. We make our way to the kitchen. I scoop a small handful of the candies out for him while no one was looking. I supervise him enough to make sure he's eating them properly and not going to choke. But I know those last few candies are not destined for his mouth. I turn around and go to washing dishes by hand, like a good little Christian girl trademark. And Jack Jack wanders around to another room. I was just told to clean, and the youngest minion is indoors, with outside doors locked. So, not currently my concern. About 15 minutes later, I hear crying like a tornado siren warming up, ascending in volume. It's Jack Jack. He's crammed 2 red hots up his nostrils, and now the dissolving cinnamon was burning like 3.6 Röntgen. The more snot and tears he made, the faster it dissolved and ran out of his nose. So it didn't take very long for his nose to be clear. I played ignorant because I was doing exactly what I was told, and Jack Jack was out of my sight. Win-win. Funnily enough, Jack Jack and I are pretty close with a great relationship, while my other siblings and I drift apart. Although he and I don't talk often, his hindsight is amazingly clear for somebody who just became an adult. Jack Jack put himself on a diet at 16 and lost about 80 pounds. despite my mom trying to make him eat dessert every week. He's a good sport and laughs along every time the red-hot life lesson comes up, but I'll never tell my family I instigated it. Part of me feels bad, but I hope I spared him an ER visit involving gravel or worse, like broken glass. Nobody else was going to try and stop him. I didn't have to fish anything out of his ears or nose ever again. Don't want to believe I have the flu? Okay, I'll come in. Read another puke story on this sub that reminded me of something similar that happened to me. This was about 30 years ago, back when I still worked for others. I started my own business 27 years ago and now am retired. But I have some fond memories of working for a few pricks, and this is one. This boss and I had a bad relationship from the beginning. You see, I was supposed to be a partner of the firm, but he went behind my back and made a deal with the money man on his own. So I was stuck and had to take a subordinate position, which I had to take because I had a mortgage to pay and was desperate. Anyway, I had a salary, benefits, sick days, etc. About a year after I started, there was a terribly horrible flu going around and I got it. Fever, chills, the runs, puking, everything. It started on a Friday evening. On Monday, I was still in bad shape, so I called in. Boss is one of those people that thinks everyone is a liar, because he is, and doesn't believe that I'm sick, but says, okay, stay home, get better, etc. About 2 hours later, I'm lying in bed and hear a knock at the door. I come to the door and there he is, looks at me and says, I don't look sick. He said he really needs to get some work with me done that day and I need to come in. A power play, so okay, screw it. I go in. In the conference room is a big display that he'd been working on with his notes right there on the table. I had been drinking chicken soup and eating saltines. Feels good on the throat. And was feeling sorta queasy from the trip down to the office. I'm standing there listening to him and, to be honest, just looking at him made me sort of sick. And my mouth starts salivating really heavily. And I'm getting that feeling in my throat. And up comes my morning food. And yep, I blew chunks all over his notes and notebook. I'm not saying I aimed it that way, but I also didn't try to miss it either. It was a nice leather one too. Some even splashed onto his pants. He lost his crap and was yelling at me. I just stood there swaying. Finally, I said, I tried to tell you I was sick. I think I better go home now. I turned to walk out. I have no idea who cleaned it up, but it wasn't me. I got back home and went to bed. About 2 days later, I come back in. Guess who was home sick then with the flu? Boss man. And then his wife. And then just about everyone else in the office. So bosses, when you have a good employee who is sick, believe them. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, consider subscribing. And if you didn't, also subscribe, because why not? See you in the next one. Peace out.